Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. So BEKTEMIR MELIKUZIEV defeats David Stevens on a split decision. Really weird scorecards for this one. There was a 118, 110 and a 117, 111 to MELIKUZIEV and then a 116, 112 to Stevens. I had it 116, 112 to MELIKUZIEV, but that really doesn't tell the story because this was a fight in which MELIKUZIEV really had to walk through fire. He finished the fight with a cut over his left eye. That was the result of a clash of heads, accidental clash of heads. He had blood coming out of his nose from about the third round. This was 12 rounder, by the way. Blood coming out of his mouth from the middle rounds, maybe. I mean, he was looking beaten up. But, of course, you can look beaten up. It don't mean that you're losing the fight. Because don't forget, bang on the jaw, it doesn't show necessarily unless it swells badly. A bang to the body doesn't show. Cosmetic, cuts, bruises, abrasions, that can look bad, but it can actually give you a false reflection on how the fight's going. I mean, I thought MELIKUZIEV won it, but Stevens will probably look back on this fight and think, I should have done more. If only I'd worked hard, if only I'd done more, because MELIKUZIEV seemed to want it more. It started off with MELIKUZIEV being what he is, which is this, tough, physically imposing barrel of a super middleweight. And then he trundled forward, slinging big hooks. He's always firing, knockout punches or potential knockout punches. There's weight behind every sort of wallop. And for the first couple of rounds, Stevens was quite conservative. He was in his shell. Now, Stevens, a couple of fights ago, fought an undefeated guy called Joshon James, who got knocked out in a round. It was an 8-rounder. He got sort of caught cold, and that was it. And so his career got derailed. Then he came back with a 1-round knockout victory. So he's in there against MELIKUZIEV, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be cavalier. He might still have that 1-round defeat, which was at the back end of last year. It's about a year ago. He might have that on his mind. That might leave some sort of psychological residue. But by the third round, he got his engine running, and he was looking very crafty. He's only 24 years old, this guy, Stevens. Orthodox fighter, as opposed to MELIKUZIEV, who is a southpaw. And he's 28 years old. He looks a bit older. He just looks really physically strong, MELIKUZIEV. He has a defeat on his record too to Gabe Rosado back in 2021, although he did avenge it with a points decision later on, a couple of years later, I think. I think was that Rosado's last fight? I think he had one more after that, did he? Or was that a last fight? I can't remember. But MELIKUZIEV, for 168, he's about 5'9", 5'10" at the most. And he has some skills, but he just loads up with every punch. It's so predictable. I mean, he moves in quickly, which is how he got caught against Rosado, lets his punches go, never varies the weight. You can brace yourself for constant heavy artillery. He won't touch you and then bang, it comes over. He'll just be throwing his enormous hooks And Stevens was able, after a few rounds, to sort of predict this and ride it out, and be crafty, pop his own punches. And he was putting together some nice combinations. He had Ronnie Shields in his corner, veteran trainer, very, very good trainer. Is he a Hall of Fame trainer? He should be if he isn't. And by the middle rounds, you thought, this is a good fight. This is there for the taking for Stevens. Like I say, Beck was getting carved up. There was a lot of body work. And I think BEKTEMIR's body work may have put Stevens back in his box, because I got the feeling that, there was a bit of... He got a little bit more reticent, Stevens, after some of those body punches went in, and he was a bit reluctant to let his hands go for fear of leaving the ribs exposed. But he did. The last third of the fight, certainly. I mean, maybe from the 8th round onwards, MELIKUZIEV took over and started really landing some heavy duty stuff. Stevens was still coming back, but it was more a case of him being second to the punch, not having the last word in the exchanges. And MELIKUZIEV, despite his cosmetic bash up, was winning the rounds, and ran out of, I think, of quite quite a relatively convincing winner, although it was, like I say, it was very competitive. Stevens can come again at 24, but he's got to have a little bit more, that's the phrase I'm looking for. He needs to recognise that sometimes you've got to gamble, and he could have won this fight, and he didn't. Because he sort of not shut up shop. He didn't entirely go into his little cave and hide away, but I don't know whether he was looking for one big punch or whether he was constantly looking to counter too much. And he did land his own body punches, by the way, but he looked really crafty and on the ascendancy from about the third round onwards until the sixth, seventh round, and then Melikuziev took over. And it's a fight that Stevens could have won. There's no doubt about it. But I've never been that convinced by Melikuziev. I think because he does have this very predictable style, he always looks very beatable. I think he is very beatable. But you've got to use your brain to do it, because if you try and use your brawn, you're going to come off second best. The guy's too physically strong and hits very hard. And Stevens showed ways that it's so frustrating to watch this fight from Stevens' point of view, because he showed ways in which, he could have won. He could have won, but he didn't, because he just couldn't quite, take his courage in his hands and be a little bit more cavalier, a little bit more productive with the output, gamble a little bit more. I mean, okay, he could have got flattened. If he gambled, he might have walked into one. You just don't know, do you? But the old saying, it's better get knocked out trying to win than go the distance trying to go the distance. That's no good. I'm undecided on Melikuziev. I think he'll be found out at 168. There were some good 168 pounders around. I mean, I think he'd be absolute, meat and potatoes for someone like David Morrell or Benavidez or someone like that. I think they just smash him to bits. But at this level, this sort of B level, he can grind out the wins. He'll probably get a title shot. And this was a 12-rounder, actually. I don't know whether there was one of those alphabet soup trinkets on the line. There might have been. But it was a good fight, but petered out a bit because it was frustrating to watch because of Stevens' tactics. But and I'm not sure Ronnie Shields was that happy at the end of the 11th round. He didn't say it, but he kind of strongly implied you need a knockout to win, and it didn't happen. But there we are. Anyway, let me know what you think. What do you think of BEKTEMIR? How far can he go? How good is he? Let me know. And comments below. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you could do that, that would be a big help. And also that little like button, click it as well. Give it a click. Much appreciated. As always, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and bye for now.